congregation, a man who loves God. And that's some introduction, isn't it? Greatly, Brother Ken Jacobs.
When the girls were singing that song and concluded with, I want to be worthy of Calvary love, I reflected on my life and my struggle to try to, make myself worthy. I know every one of us undoubtedly have done this. And sitting here, I reflected on 4 concepts that I have sensed since I've been translating the New Testament that relate to worthiness. I hadn't intended to say this, but it just keeps coming to my mind. And they alliterate with R's. They all start with an R. And you can remember them this way, and you perhaps will remember them over the years. One is what God offers to me, I have no reservations about it. In other words, I say to God and to myself about the only 2 people I need to convince. That's what I want. No reservations in my heart. There are lots of things in life, we have reservations about. Maybe or maybe not, but I want that. That's one. Number 2 is no refusals. Abraham was like this. God said, Abraham, I'm going to give you a land. And Abraham, over the years, looked introvertly many times. And he couldn't find a reason in the world why God should give it to him. But he said, I'll take it. If that's what you want to do, I won't refuse it. Number 3, no reliance on self. Another characteristic that Abraham had. He was impotent to fulfill the promise. There is no way in the world that I can add anything to God whereby He'll give anything to me. I do not rely on myself. No reliance on self. I'm impotent to complement or supplement the promises of God. They lie outside of my capacity. They depend completely on God. No reliance on self. And the last one, no rivals. I'm not trying to supplement. I'm not trying to trust somebody else. Abraham was like this. He said God is well able to implement what He has promised. And there's no virtue in any of these attitudes. And that constitutes worthiness. And any one of us, helpless sinners, can fulfill those 4 requirements because there's no virtue in any of them. Isn't that interesting? And God will point His finger at me, at you, like He did at Abraham. And He said, there goes a perfect man. Qualify. And we have to qualify for the kingdom of God. Well, how do we? No reservations. No refusal. No reliance on self. No rival. And we're worthy. I qualify for the kingdom of God. I qualify for Calvary love. How do I? At a sinner level. No other level. That's what I want. That's what I won't refuse. And that's what I find in my life. I refuse it. I want something else out of life. So do you at times. So do the Chamulas. So did Abraham at times. But thank God for His consistent activities in our life, He never, ever, in any time, fails not to handle the circumstances of our life, deal with us day by day in a total way, so that we're products of His grace. We're all products of His grace. Absolutely. So are the Chamulas. And tonight, that's what I want to report about, just a little bit. I promised myself, and I'll promise you that I won't keep you all night like I have a tendency to do. I'm not in Mexico. I'm not with the Indians. I'm with people who are very time conscious, and I'll try to remember that. A fellow told me the other day in Minneapolis, he said, look, I'm worth $85 an hour. You want to get rid of me, see? Well, that's America. Wow. I culture shock when I come here. I'm used to just sitting down all day. Don't even look at my watch. Look at the sun a little bit. Right there, it's 20 to 8, and I'll keep moving. The passage that the pastor read, Paul said, you learned these things from, we understand, Epaphras. It was Epaphras who shared the good news, the gospel, with the people at Colossae. And Paul said, who is in the same service as we are? I'm in the same service as this brother. And there's Chamulas tonight who are in the same service that I'm in. They're promoting somebody else eternally at their expense. That's exactly what Jesus did. I'm here tonight, a product of somebody who served my eternal welfare, a servant. I got a servant serving me. His name is Jesus. And I stand on him, and I'm successful eternally because he serves my eternal welfare. It's the only way I can account for what I am. I have no other way to account for it. I'm standing on a man named Jesus. And if I'm going to promote Chamulas eternally, they're going to have to be able to stand on me. I have to serve their eternal welfare. They're well off at my expense. I'm expendable for their welfare. God destined it to be that way. Well, Paul said this of Epaphras. And he said, as a matter of fact, it was from him that we heard about your growth in Christian love and so forth. So Epaphras was not only a minister, but he was also a reporter. And tonight I want to report briefly to you from Chamula country. And Paul talks in this passage about how he heard of their faith. He heard of their love. It's very interesting. If you read this passage, go home and read it in any version you have. You'll find that faith and love, in other words, trusting God and change of character, are the result, as this passage says. See, we know that you are showing these qualities. What qualities? Faith. Chamula we translate, you take seriously. This is our word for faith. That's faith in Chamula. It's a transitive verb with a direct object. We take seriously what God makes himself responsible to do for us. That's faith. These people had faith. See, they took seriously what God said he'd do. And love, or they had character. Now why? These are the result of hope. It's not the other way around. First there's hope. Then there's response and character. What is hope? What is hope? I struggled 12 to 15 years among the Chamulas to know how to translate hope because we don't have a noun for it. Neither do we have a noun for faith. Well, what is hope? Say it to me using transitive verb. That's what I have to do in Chamula because I'm a Bible translator. And I have to convey this concept without a noun. Hope is in Chamula. Pato kotentontik. Teach kitchtikusi yako botik tidioshe. Look at a great big long phrase. Here's what it says. We comfort our hearts that we're going to get what God promised to give us. Well, that's what I've been spending the last 15, 20 years of my life, translating the New Testament. We're just about finished. Elaine's in Minneapolis typing up the book of John. I'm back translating the whole New Testament, and it'll be finally checked, and we'll have the entire New Testament, 76, 77, that the Lord gives us health and strength. Has to be adapted to meet some other dialectal changes. But then the Chamulas will have the whole New Testament. They will be hearing. You see, God's communication. That is hope. They're hearing what God has obligated himself to do. He hasn't obligated them to do it. He made himself responsible. Marvelous. Incredible concept. God made himself responsible for the world's welfare. And the Indians hear that message, which I've translated, you see, over a period of years. It's like you're sick, and you can't be cured. And finally you go to some doctor in Rochester or somewhere, and he says, now look, I've examined you, I've looked at your blood, I've done this and I've done that, and I have been involved in many cases like this. There's no problem. I can handle it. What do you have? Now you have real hope. So you comfort your heart that you can get what this doctor promises you. That creates faith and change of attitude, character. That's what Paul said happened to the Colossians. That happens to everybody, every place who's born again, comes to know God. You hear something that's logical, meaningful, somebody stands behind it that has the capacity to implement what he commits himself to do, and you hear it, you listen to it, and you say, wow, I need that. And you, faith, how do we translate? Take seriously what God makes himself responsible to do. Then what happens? Change of life in your love, in that order. And a religionist turns it around. He tries to upgrade his life first. That's what religion is. And many Christians, not real Christians, are in quotes, go to church, they're doing it to gain favor with God. You don't have to gain favor with God. You have favor with God. Hope, faith, love, in that order. That's happening among the Chamulas. Not a lot of them. When I drove home last year already, sat in the car, I went with the Chamulas coming home, and I said to myself, what can I say to the people at home? What can I honestly report that God is doing among the Chamulas? What do I sense? What do I see? In 67 and 68, I used to talk to you about the fiery persecution, 120 Chamulas in my yard, driven out of the tribe, fled. Oh, frustrated years, Oh, we were frustrated. You have no idea how frustrated and troubled we were. Thinking they were vital Christians. Some of them risked their lives.